in verse 15 to 19, coming to the historical meaning of that, as the Bhishma from Kaurava army blew his conch, Sri Krishna Paramatma and Arjuna from Pandava army blew their conches. Sri Krishna is called Hrishikesha in the shloka, which is literal sense means that one who masters the sense and mind. Hrishikesha, as we know, he is the lord of the universe, blew his conch called Panchajanya because he defeated a demon named Panchajanya. Following that, all the Pandava army, Arjuna blew his conch very loudly named Devadatta. His conch was said to be gifted by Lord Indra himself to Arjuna directly. Following that, Bhima blew his mighty conch Poundra, and Yudhishthira blew his conch named Ananta Vijayam. Nakula and Sahadeva blew their conch named Manipushpaka. Both the Pandava army and Kaurava army was blaring their conches and war drums. The war noise created by Pandava army was terrifying to the Kaurava warriors, even though Kaurava warriors are larger in strength compared to Pandava army. As we know, Pandava army had only 7 Akshauhinis lined up and Kaurava army had 11 such Akshauhinis. Sanjaya explaining all this to Dhritarashtra, also highlighting that Duryodhana at the beginning of the battle rushed to consult with Dronacharya engulfed in fear. But Arjuna raised his bow the very moment Bhishma blew his conch and showed no fear and ready to fight. There is said to be 2 reasons why Pandava's war noise was very loud and terrifying than the Kaurava army. Number 1, as per Vedanta, any being rooted in righteousness and putting God first before their actions were always supported greatly and instantly by the universal forces. Number 2, before the battle, when Pandavas were facing limitless troubles and humiliation from Duryodhana, at one time, Pandavas including Draupadi and Kunti has to live a life of incognito resistance, that is for a year. So in that case, if at all they are found to be identified by any single soul on this year, they will immediately be killed. Pandavas had no other way but to oblige this Duryodhana's demand and order. During that time, they were moving from villages to villages through forest without revealing their identity and couldn't stay at one place for longer. At one such time, Draupadi found a beautiful 1,000-petal lotus near a river in the forest. As it was so beautiful, she wanted more of it to use for puja and rituals and everyday activities. So she asked her husband Bhima to fetch more of such flowers for her use. So Bhima went into the forest called Kadali, where he was blessed with the presence of Sri Vayuputra Hanuman. And Hanuman blessed Bhima, saying that he will always guide their way and be present at the time of war, sitting in their flag to ensure victory for Pandavas. Because of Hanuman's presence, the roar of Pandavas' army is said to be very louder than Kauravas. This is the second reason. Spiritually speaking, as said in the book of God Talks with Arjuna by Sri Paramahansa Yogananda, the sound of conches symbolizes the mantra japa practiced by the spiritual seeker. Even though the ego mind seemed to be strong in the beginning, trying to hinder the stillness of mind of a seeker through thoughts, emotions and anxiety, fear, etc., the spirit mind rooted with mantra japa, concentrating on divine presence, gradually smokes out the ego mind and gets deeper into stillness. In essays on Gita, Sri Aurobindo says that Gita, as any other great work of the kind, can only be understood only in its entirety and as a developing argument. Sri Aurobindo also says that many preachers and modern interpreters have emphasized the Gita wrongly, like thou hast right to action but not results. But this cannot be right. If we do action with ego sense of I, we are the one who is going to face the consequences of the action. The result of such action can't be taken care by the universe for us. Only when we make the actions with complete surrender to the divine, then we naturally lose the attachment to the result of that action as it's guided by God in the first place. Sri Aurobindo also states that be it a physical work, life, birth, death, nothing in this earth could be attained without a struggle. We, as a spiritual seeker, have to keep ourselves strong like Arjuna, surrendering to our divine within, and so can stand fearless to overcome any struggles. Sri Aurobindo also emphasizes that for a spiritual seeker, it's not only the actions that should be tamed in righteousness and surrendered, but the will and thoughts also to be kept in check. As we see, the thoughts and intentions from a deeper level of awareness, which Sri Aurobindo calls a soul force, have much greater power to accomplish than a physical action. He points out that in historical incident where Maharishi Vashishta destroyed Vishwamitra's army just by using his soul force. Maharishi Vasishta did this to protect his ashram and the inmates. This is what Sri Aurobindo is trying to highlight, that the difference in sacrificing our soul for others and sacrificing others to our soul. Similarly, if we try to understand the commentary on Gita by Sri Adi Shankara Bhagavad Paramacharya, he takes Arjuna as a devotee or seeker and says the seeker will always be fearless when he realizes the presence of God in him. Also, a seeker who has no desires or interest towards outwardly pleasure has nothing to be afraid, even though he is standing in front of a huge opposing army. Thus should be the state of a spiritual seeker. But practically, how do we attain the state of no desires, no complaints, no inclination to sensory perceptions or pleasures? Sri Shankara Bhagavad Paramacharya says we need to do all our actions without any attachment, not just the attachment to the outcome of the actions, but to the action itself. For example, when a child is playing or a bird is singing, it doesn't have the sense that I am doing this or I have done this. They simply be the action without the sense of I in their mind or consciousness. But as grown-ups, we are engulfed by the false pretenses of ego mind in the form of fear, anxiety, next actions, and the action we will be doing 5 years from now and something happened 5 years ago, and so on. But even if we know these smokes around our consciousness aren't real, how do we get free from it? This is where I find the teachings of Eckhart Tolle to be helpful. Number one, the primary thing he says is to be aware of the noise around us wherever we are and whatever we are doing. When the mind is engaged in acute listening around that, it can't be engulfed by the thoughts. Two, don't see the people as a walking book of history, always remembering what they did wrong or judging them again and again. Practice the present moment awareness in our duties every day, like one of it, like cooking or cleaning or walking. Be fully present and keep bringing our awareness back to the presence again and again whenever it wanders. That's the challenge for the true spiritual seeker. श्री संजय उवाच पाञ्चजन्यं ऋषिकेशो देवदत्तं धनञ्जयः पौण्ड्रं दद्मौ महाशङ्कं भीमकर्मावृकोदरः अनन्तविजयं राजा कुन्तिपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः नकुलः सहदेवश्च सुघोषमणिपुष्पकौ काश्यश्च परमेश्वासः शिखण्डी च महारथः दृष्टद्युम्नो विराटश्च शात्यकिश्चापराजितः द्रुपदो द्रौपदेयाश्च सर्वशः पृथिवीपते सौभद्रश्च महाबाहुः शङ्कान् दद्मुः पृथक् पृथक् स घोषोधार्तराष्ट्राणां हृदयानि व्यदारयत् नभश्च पृथिवीं चैव तुमुलोऽव्यनुनादयन् राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे